Hello, everyone. How are you? This is Damon, the agent, coming to you live on Friday, October the 21st, 2022. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, and Real Live. Let me drink some water real quick so I don't splurge my words. All right, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. I welcome you all and I thank you all. Last week, I had a very good show. Also, last Saturday, I had my client appreciation a party. It was a great event. I'm going to post some pictures on social media, hopefully later on today. But it was fantastic, everyone. You know what I'm saying? I had a live band, I had a DJ, I had a group of comedians. Of course, I had catered foods, gave gift bags. I had a 360 photo booth, had a cash bar, and also we had a cash raffle at the end where two people won some money that was gathered throughout the day, throughout the event. So everyone enjoyed themselves. I'm glad that they did. I appreciate each and every one of my clients. I thank them for just, you know what I'm saying, choosing me. But at the same time, let's get into it. As you all know, I always start off my segment with talking about the world of real estate, just to touch on things to hopefully help you in your journey within the real estate world. So, and that's whether you're selling or buying, investing, or you're just trying to gather information to know what you can do and what you can't do. So I just always like to enlighten people, to give them a little tidbit of information to help them, you know what I'm saying, along their journey, to be very educational and educated on the process. So this week, I'm going to talk about home prices versus mortgage payments. The reason why I want to talk about this is because people have been talking lately about the interest rate. The interest rates are rising. They feel like they shouldn't buy right now. They're going to wait for the housing market to burst or for prices to go down. So I really want to educate people on this process because I think some people have been spoiled by the record low interest rates earlier this year. And I think some people are not even understanding how the interest rate and the home prices work with each other to coincide what one's monthly payment is going to be. So I really want to elaborate on those things to hopefully educate you on the process so you can make a sound decision what's best for you. Now, I first want to say yes, interest rates are rising. They have risen from the beginning of this year. Currently, they're right around 7%. But I also want to educate you on the fact that a few years ago, interest rate, if you got a 7 or 8% interest rate, that was fantastic. And people still bought houses. And I also want to educate you on the fact that people, including your parents, bought houses when the interest rate was as high as 22%. So I think people focus on the interest rate, but there's certain things that people do not focus on that they should. First of all, they should focus on their credit. Their credit determines what interest rate they get. For example, when people see credit cards are offering a 0% interest rate, those are only to people who have A1 credit. If you don't have A1 credit, that doesn't apply to you. And there's plenty of people who still get approved for a credit card and have a high, and when I say high, I mean 18% or higher interest rate. But we're not talking about credit cards, we're talking about houses. So let me focus on that. So when it pertains to houses and everything, I think what people need to look at that currently the interest rate is at 7%, and the prices are whatever the prices are. So people are waiting on housing prices to go down. Please don't hold your breath because history has proven that prices don't relatively go down. During a recession and when we had the housing market bust in 2008, yes, prices did stagger off a little bit and they went down a little bit, but that was only in certain areas because real estate is always relative to each particular location. Real estate is always about location, location, location. In places like Washington, D.C., in places like New York, places like Los Angeles, California, prices did not go down. Prices just stayed and leveled off while there was a recession, while there was a housing burst. So right now, please do not wait on housing prices to go down. What people should be focusing more on is if the monthly payments or monthly investments are affordable. And the reason why they should focus on that rather than the interest rate is because of this. You have to look at two things. If you have a high balance of a loan or a home and you have a very low interest rate, can you afford that? Most people can't, whether they realize it or not. Most people cannot afford that. So basically, what ends up happening is this: they can't afford it because right now there are a lot of low interest rate for people who are purchasing jumbo loans or houses that are over 725,000, especially over a million. The interest rate is very, very low there. But people who are purchasing under 725, the interest rate is not very low. It's at 7%. So for some people, that is not low. So what people tend to do is because that they listen to the media all the time, and you got to understand the media is not always saying things that applies to you. You know, just like everyone has their own DNA, everyone has their own credit score, everyone has their own financial situation. You have to really look at the fact is, okay, if this house right here is worth, let's say if this house is priced at, I'm just going to use these numbers for an example, but if this house is priced at 500,000 and my interest rate is 7%, what is my monthly payments? That's what you all should focus more so. Oh, I've seen time and time again in my real estate career that people who focus more on interest rate end up missing out on purchasing a home, because what ends up happening is they're waiting for the interest rate to go down, but the housing prices continue to go up. So then once the interest rate does go down, like when we had a record low 2% earlier this year, now the house that they were looking at one point that was priced at 300,000, now it's priced at 550,000, and they can't afford that. But if they would have purchased the home when it was at 300,000 and had the 8% interest rate, that mortgage payment would have been much lower for them, because people are sometimes focused on the wrong thing. You're focused on the interest rate when you should focus on your monthly payment. See, you got to look at which one is more important to you as a buyer: the house, the price of the house, or the monthly payment. You can't always have both. And that's why I say which one, because of course, most people are going to say both. But reality is you're not going to get both in most cases. You're not going to always have a very low price and then a very low interest rate. You know what I'm saying? Those were during historical times, and everything has gone up. Like, for example, this is 2022. Housing prices are much higher today than they were in 2017, 5 years ago. And of course, house prices were much higher in 2017 than they were in 2012. So what I'm saying is right now we're in 2022. In 5 more years, most likely the housing prices are going to be higher, not lower. Most likely the housing prices are going to be higher unless, we have something crazy like a lot of war going on and a lot of recession. And then depending on who's in the office at the time, when I say office, I mean who's our president at the time. A lot of these variable factors, what I'm saying, are things that determine our economy, that determine prices on everything. Currently, inflation is high. And because inflation is high, everyone is just trying to justify raising prices on everything. I recently had gotten my car insurance went up $50. When I called them, because I haven't been in any accident or anything, when I called them, they're telling me because inflation is high and because when people are in accidents and the fact that when they take them to the shop, the people at the shop are charging more for the parts because inflation is higher. So what I'm saying is, though, is everything tends to go up. And if they go down, they only come down but so much when it pertains to when people are charging for things. And this applies to houses as well, too. So one thing that people really need to focus on is which one is more important to them, the price of the house or the price of their payment. Because here's another tidbit for some of you all. There are plenty of people who are in houses that are priced over $725,000 $1 million homes and everything. And it's not the house price that they're focused on. They're focused on their monthly payments. What can they afford monthly? Some people focus on interest rate and everything, but you got to really focus on your monthly payments because that's the way it is. That's just like in this area, DC has a program called NACA. NACA focuses on the people's monthly payments. The reason why they focus on the monthly payment, because the monthly payment is going to determine if they can afford the house or not. And the same thing applies to when you all are looking to buy a house. Don't always focus on the interest rate. The interest rate is important because, of course, you don't want anything like how your grandparents had 22% interest rate. But when it gets to the point where housing prices are still, levering off, and some areas are still going up slightly, and you want and need a house, how long are you going to really wait? Because if you sit in that apartment and you continue to pay them rent, the rent payments are going to go up just as much as the housing is going to go up, and just as much as the interest rate is going to go up. But here's the thing: you have no say so when your rent goes up. You still have to pay your rent, or you have to move somewhere else that you feel is affordable. But when you have a house, what you can end up doing when you have a house is this. Let's say you buy a house and it has a high interest rate. Okay. What you want to do is get that house if you can afford the payment, but refinance. That is the key, people. You can refinance 6 months or later on your house. That's why a lot of times people get a house, and then when they get a house, when interest rates do go down, they refinance. Or when it becomes affordable, they refinance. But they do it when their house is at a certain price point. Again, people focusing on waiting for houses to go down. Okay, you can wait for houses to go down, but like I said, please don't hold your breath, because reality is most likely it's not going to go down. Even if it goes down, it's going to go down a little bit. It's not going to go down a whole 100,000, a whole 200,000. Like I said, unless we have a very bad economy to the point we have war going on and a real bad recession, prices are not going to go down when it pertains to houses, people. So focus more so on the monthly payment, or we call it also your monthly investment into your home, than on the housing prices. Because there are plenty of people who have, like I said, houses over $700,000 $1 million. They're only concerned about their monthly payment. They're not always focused on the interest rate because they know that they can refinance. See, a lot of times when it pertains to whether or not you get a home or not, it depends on who you're listening to. It depends on what you know. You know what I'm saying? I don't have, I'm saying, I'm not going to say that the news is negative, but the news always telling you the bad points on certain things. They don't explain things to good point. And they also sometimes want to keep us in a scared society, and instead of us being in a realistic society. They don't tell you all the facts. So I'm here to explain to you, don't always focus on and listen to what they're saying. And trust and believe, no matter what economy we're in, no matter what it is, there are people buying houses every single day. That's why sometimes you'll look up and one of your friends have bought a house and you wonder, how did they buy a house? The reason they bought a house is because they listen to the professional, such as myself, such as a loan officer, who know what they're doing and know what they're talking about, and sharing very vital information to you so you can have and make an educated decision on what's best for you. Because again, no one can tell you what's best for you but you should have all of the valuable information to make a sound decision on that. So again, I strongly suggest that people focus on their monthly mortgage payment rather than interest rate, because interest rate fluctuate up and down, but prices continue to go up. So again, I'm gonna give you an example. If a house is priced at 500,000, and you have an interest rate at 8%, and then the interest rate goes down to 2%, but the house is priced at 850,000, which one is your cheaper monthly mortgage payment? You make the decision. And on top of that, your mortgage balance is higher as the prices go up. Interest rate, you can always refinance. You can always refinance 6 months after you moved into a property. So always keep that in mind, as long as it's affordable to you, that you can afford it. So I'm going to also have a loan officer come on here, a senior loan officer guy of mine. His name is John Lynn. He's going to talk about that and what's going on in the mortgage world and some other things in 1 second. So I'll be right back. John!
What's going on, Damon?
I'm good. How are you, sir?
I'm good. I'm a big fan of your show.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. Thank you for coming on, and thank you for coming to my client appreciation party on Saturday. It was good to have you and your wife there.
probably the best date that we've had in about 6 months. It was. She loves comedy. She doesn't think I'm funny, so I got to bring her to your event and have some comedians there and make her laugh because I talk about numbers and she doesn't like numbers. So
Some people don't, and it's understandable. But I'm glad that you two came, and I'm glad that that you were able to basically like enjoy, how I like to treat my clients and everything. So, like I said, the next one is going to be equal or bigger. Some of my clients, I guess, at the last moment, hit me up and said that they weren't feeling well. So I don't know if something was going around, but it still was a nice turnout. But I want all of my clients to show up. I just want them all to show up and everything.
I don't
But
know if you got a big enough room for that, Damon. You've been doing this 17 years.
know. Not what we was at, like an arena, and then have it in the center of the arena. I think I'll do that. But we can sell these houses and $1 million houses. Then hey, anything's possible. I like to think big. So tell us, John. Tell everyone who you are, what you do, what's going on in the mortgage world. Talk to them. I just elaborated on house prices versus mortgage payments. So maybe you can elaborate more on that, and then share anything else you'd like to share with my audience.
Sure thing. My name is John Lynn. I'm a senior loan officer at Intercoastal Mortgage, which is headquartered in Fairfax. We got offices up and down the East Coast. So, and I think I was listening into the things that you were saying, and I was taking notes, and it's interesting because those were a lot of the similar things that I was going to say. Is that right now more than any time, right now more than any other time, I think it's really important to have a good agent that's guiding you, because I've been hearing a lot of the similar things that you're hearing. Right? Is it a good time to buy? Oh, interest rates are so high. And it's funny is last year everybody's saying housing prices are too high, as opposed to interest rates. Right? So so that definitely resonates with the buyers that I'm talking to, and obviously with your buyers too, right?
Right.
So I think one of the interesting things right now, why I say it's important to have a really good real estate agent such as yourself at this time is that there's a lot of opportunity out there that I see. And I've been talking to a lot of the agents and just gathering data. I like to do that. And then, what are you seeing in the markets? And this is what I'm seeing. Does that make sense as far as what my interpretation is? And what I've been seeing is I've been seeing a lot of contracts coming in. And I would say like the last 2 months, I've probably seen like 20 contracts.
Okay.
And there's very few things that are like right on list price. There's things that are above list price. And there's a lot of things that come in as a contract as below list price. So like the first thing, that you as an agent, I'm sure is thinking is like, oh yeah, some of them are just not priced correctly. Right.
Correct.
Yeah. So I think that's where some of the opportunity is. And of course, that's also why, as if you're selling your house, it's super important to have an agent, because the ones that are seeing that are going above list price, there's still houses that are going above list price. They're decked out pretty well. Like they've been staged. I can tell by the pictures on. I always look at listings whenever they come in just to check to see what they look like, and they're staged well, they're priced well, and they're usually the ones that come on the market, and then they're pretty recently, like within a week, right? And then the ones that are coming in below list price. I'm seeing that those are probably the ones that have been sitting. So I think for the right house, you're still getting them at a very good price. But you tell me, what do you think about that?
Well, I always like to say, like, especially when I have conversations with sellers, I always, before I meet with them, I ask them, what condition is your home in? Is it in poor, fair, good, very good, renovated, excellent condition? Those are what I normally ask to hear their perspective of how they view their home before I go there, because I've had sellers sometimes who would say, "Oh, my house is in good condition. It's in very good condition." Then when I get there, the house needs work. But then because they saw a house across the street sell for, let's say, 750,000, they think their house is worth 950. You understand? So it's always about gathering comps, looking at the condition of the property, hearing what the sellers think, because some sellers want to net a certain amount. And if we're always talking about numbers, I can always work the numbers out for them and everything, as long as they do their part when it pertains to what advice I advise them. Because sometimes they want to tell you what to do, and then if you put their house on the market, and let's say you said it's in good condition, they have multiple offers, especially if you price it right. The key is just pricing it right. They can get multiple offers. If they have in their mind what they want to list their house for, and their house is not in the condition of the comparables, then their house will sit for a while. Because sometimes people say, oh yeah, my neighbor sold there for $750, I want to sell at least $850. And then you'll look at their condition, and even though theirs was $750, theirs might have been completely renovated, staged like you said, add-ons and some more. And you're saying to yourself, okay, your house not even worth $750, but now they want to price it for $850. So then you talk to them about pricing and everything, and I like to educate them on that and other versatile things when it pertains to. But if they're very adamant on the price, we'll put it on there. And then when it sits or it's not getting any traffic, because I always like to, after 2 weeks, let's look at how things are within the first 2 weeks, then talk about it. Then once we talk about it, then they'll see like, okay, well, maybe you're right. But what they fail to realize is their listing becomes stale at that point. Okay. And I say stale, it's like bread. You leave bread out too long, it becomes stale. And now don't nobody really want it. And then if somebody get it, they're only going to get it because there's no more bread left. And then they're going to put in a toaster and they're going to try to doctor it up. Same thing with these listings. What happens is people who don't listen to an agent such as myself, and they want to price it the way they want to price it. Then when their house is not getting any offer, what ends up happening, someone's going to make them an offer way below than what I would originally have priced it at. Now, you don't want to accept that, but then you don't have much options and everything, because some people, they think because of HGTV, they think because of Zillow, that they know everything. They think that they're so much more educated than you as a loan officer or me as a realtor, when really you're not, because you have limited information. That's what they don't understand. Like HGTV is a show. Zillow, they give you limited information. They don't tell you anything. We go to school for these things. We have to learn. We have to study. We have to take continuing education every 2 years to further our craft. So you don't think we know more than those people. You think, oh, they're just giving it to you for free because of the internet and everything. I mean, it's a lot of information you can gain now on the internet, especially with Google, but you don't gain it all. And that's what they don't understand. So, like what you said with the offers and everything, people are still buying. That's what I was just saying before. People are still buying. People want to hold off because of the interest rate. No. Why? Because you think 7% is high. Where were you like hold on, what's this? Where were you like 6-7 years ago? If you think 7%.
What's funny is, I think I hitting on that point, like all of us would be like, man, I wish I was living in the 80s and I bought that. My parents bought their house for $100,000 and it's McLean, whatever it is, right? Yeah. And it's like, okay, yeah. Do you know what interest rates were in 1981? 18.1%.
Yes, ridiculous. And I think what it is, though, I think society is spoiled now. They're so spoiled and they feel so entitled. Nobody wants to pay anything, but everybody wants to be paid. And then when you look at the interest rate this year, it was historically low. That's why I keep saying that word, historically low, meaning this is in history is extremely rare. This doesn't come around. So because you didn't get the house when it was 2%, now you want to wait. Okay, that's why I said before you got on, don't hold your breath. And I'm not saying that, I'm just saying you're waiting for something that may never come again. So now you have to really look at your situation. It's still a great time for people to buy. I always reiterate that the winter time is the best time to buy. The reason why is because many people do not want to go out when it's cold, and they don't want to move in the cold. And also many people don't want to go out when it's dark, because people get off work around 5:30. So it's dark at that time. They don't want to look at houses at that time. But in the summertime, when it doesn't get dark till 8:45 p.m. and when the weather is nice, you got everybody, grandmothers taking field trips looking at houses. So now, basically you want to be in a competition. You putting yourself in competition with everybody else in the spring and summertime. That's why it's always so hard for people, because people want to move before the school start, because they want to have
you're proud of me. I bought my very first house in 2005 in the middle of winter.
Awesome, man. Listen, I love clients who want to buy right now and stuff, and then as they get colder, because again, to be honest with you, they're being the smart ones to me. Them the ones not scared of the cold. Them the ones not scared to move in the wintertime. Those are the ones who are going to have less competition than when they go around next year in the springtime. And then now you see a house you like, and now there's 12 offers. And then right now, there's no offers because it's the wintertime. But it's always to each his own. But I just think people really should make an educated decision rather than just listening to the news and everything, because the news will make you feel like it's the worst time ever. I don't care where it is. It's the worst. Not a good time to buy.
I think you said that, right? I was like, yeah. I actually, you know what? It's funny. I was creating an illustration that I didn't know that's what you were going to talk about, but I was going to create an illustration because the questions that I get are, I feel like I get the same questions, in a specific period of time. And right now people are asking me about interest rates and whatnot. And you had said, that interest rate, you could always refinance. And the question that I've people have been asking me the past couple of weeks are like, when do I think interest rates are going down? And I could tell you what, I did some mathematical analysis, and I hope you're okay with me going through some numbers but yeah, well, based on like what the buy downs are right now. Buy downs right now are very, very cheap, but the buy downs are saying that interest rates are going to be much lower in about 18 to 24 months. Okay. And what
much
that means
lower than what? Hold on. Yeah. Much lower than what? See, much lower can be if it says, okay, it says 7% now, but if it goes up to, let's say, 9.5%, and then 2 years from now, because that's 24 months, 9.5 much lower brings it back down 2% to 7.5. Exactly. Guess what?
Well, what I did was I looked at what the 5-year average was before COVID. I mean, and you said this, like we're probably never going to see those 2% interest rates that we saw during COVID. I mean, the Fed was lowering interest rates, and now we're suffering through that right now because we have massive inflation, and that's why they're raising interest rates, right? So I looked at the 5-year average pre-COVID. So 2015 to 2019, the average interest rate for those 60 months was, I wrote this down, 3.994%. Okay. And yeah, we've been spoiled because we've been at these 2% interest rates. But I took a purchase, a loan amount, sorry, not a purchase, a loan amount of $500,000. And I took today's interest rates, right? Today's par interest rate. So if you look at what average interest rates are, the things that are published, you'll see in fine print, like the average interest rate, and then they'll say like, oh, the average discount points, like those are points associated, right? So what I looked at was I looked at the average interest rate of right now it's showing 7.25%. Okay. And it's right in that figure. I mean, it's like 7.28 or it's as of this morning, something like that.
It's going up to 8%. Let me just tell you that now because the Feds are trying to correct, what happened early in the year. So I just, let me just put it out there. It's going up to 8%. Okay. So once it gets to 8%, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I looked at what the mortgage payment was going to be at 7.25%.
Okay.
And the mortgage payment, just principal and interest, is let's see here. What did I write it down? Oh my goodness, I didn't write it down. Oh yeah, here it is. 341088. Okay.
That's on 500,000. You said
on 500,000, $3,410.88. Okay. In 24 months, if rates go down to the 5-year average for before COVID, and COVID lasted 2 years, right? And like those low interest rates lasted for 2 years. That same $500,000 balance, guess what that would be? I mean, you've been doing this a bunch of times. But guess what do you think?
I'm about to hear what you gotta say. Go ahead.
What's that?
I said you.
Go ahead. Yeah.
It's at 500.
At 3.994%. If we go to the 5-year average, that payment goes down to $2385.35. That's $1,000 a month. So, like, we all know that a lot of the demand and supply is based on people wanting or not wanting to buy a house, right? So all those buyers that were in the market 3 months ago, 4 months ago, 6 months ago, a year ago, they're standing on the sidelines. Not that they don't want to buy a house, they still want to, but they're waiting. So we have this massive group of people, and we're talking about millennials and Gen Z are the two largest populations in the United States right now. And together they're much larger than the baby percentage-wise than the baby boomers that drove housing prices in the 80s. Well, they're sitting on the sidelines waiting, just like everybody else. They're waiting for interest rates to go down. And what do you think is going to happen when interest rates go down? They're all going to jump back in, right?
But the prices of the houses are not going to remain the same. So do me a favor real quick on that same 3.9%. If the house goes up to 750,000, what's the payment on that?
Oh shoot, I'm gonna have to take out my do a calculation.
That's okay. I'll go to my website, DamonTheAgent.com. And if anybody wants to do mortgage calculator, you all can go to my website too. Okay, so it's a mortgage calculator right here. Hold on, so let me see.
750 is what you're saying, right?
Yeah, hold on. 50, 30 years. Hold on. I'm gonna do the same interest rate that you just did. 3.99. Now, at 750,000 at that 3.99, the monthly payment is 4,943. So what I'm saying okay, and let me look at this. Hold on. Now at 750,000 with a 3.99% interest rate, the mortgage payment is 4,943. Hold on. At 500,000 with a
is that principal, interest, taxes, and insurance?
Huh?
I only use principal and interest. I think yours might include taxes and insurance, an estimate.
Oh yeah, it is.
So just the principal and interest is $35.78. So you're still $160 more than what what the payment is on 500,000.
Right, but they got less home.
Yeah,
because that home is the same. So again, what people fail to realize is once they buy a house, they can use their house as collateral. Like I said, they can always take a HELOC. They can always do a refinance, take money out their home and stuff, or they can even sell it, take that money, buy another house, put that money down, like doing a 1031 exchange, get them a bigger house, lower their monthly payment. There's so many ways to strategize doing certain things, but what it is though is I think people don't always know the number. So that's why I always try to, stress on people focusing on the numbers, because like a loan officer like you will be able to break down things. It costs people nothing to speak to a loan officer like you to see exactly where they at, like based off their personal credit scores. And I always say they're personal because even though we look at the interest rate for what they're saying the market interest rate is of today, that doesn't necessarily apply to everyone. That's what I try to get people to understand. People focus on the interest rate, housing interest rate is this interest rate is that, but reality is just like a credit card. You see Discover card, they'll do a commercial and say, 0% interest rate. Yeah, but what they're not telling you is that's for people with A1 credit. What happens is you don't have A1 credit, they're gonna approve you for a card and your interest rate may be 20%, but they're gonna approve you for it. But it's based off your DNA. And people don't factor that into consideration too. So a lot of times it would be much more simpler if they spoke with a person like you, a loan officer like you, or a realtor like me that can direct them to a loan officer and everything based off their needs to educate them on the process. Because there are many people who are in apartments who want a house. Okay, there are many people who have a townhouse that want a single family house. But people are too busy listening to the news. The news say don't buy right now. The news say this and that and everything. You know what I'm saying? And to me, somebody called TV, period, not just the news, the idiot tube. Okay. So I don't think it's the idiot tube because I like to watch basketball. You know what I'm saying? I like to watch boxing. So, but what I'm saying is that sometimes we can be so consumed with what others say that we are listening to those people, and those people are not professional. They're just people reporting. They're reporting information. They're not the professional on the stock market. They're not the professional on housing. They're not the professional on anything. They're just reporting information that they have gathered. But just because they're reporting the information that they gather does not necessarily mean that you can't purchase a home. People purchase homes every day. Every
I think
day.
it's a
And
good opportunity. I think what we were both discussing is that it's a good opportunity because like that same house where you're getting for 500,000, people are all scared off because they're standing on the sidelines, right? But you just got it for 500,000, and then when everybody jumps back in the market and there's so much demand again, that's going to push housing prices up. You just got a $600,000 house for 500,000, and then you
exactly,
refinance at their lower
exactly.
rates, and boom, you're that's to me that's
Right,
the opportunity, you know. But it has to be the right
right.
house. You need to have a good agent like yourself to help guide somebody, not not just buy any house or whatnot, right? So
Right. Yeah. So what we try to do is just educate people on the process and educate them on this. I want everyone who doesn't own a home to own a home. I'll prefer if they came through me as their agent, but if they didn't, that's fine. I hope that they get the best home for them, but I want them to also be educated and talk to educated lender such as yourself to help them understand what those numbers are because people only see the interest rate at 7%. They only see the house at 500,000, but they're not seeing okay, what's their monthly payments going to be. They're not seeing what the taxes are going to be because depending on where they buy that $500,000 house, it's going to be property taxes associated with that. That's going to determine their monthly payment, which they don't understand. Just like in this whole region, you have DC that have higher price homes, but they have lower taxes. But then you have areas like Prince George's County that have high taxes and houses like in the middle and stuff. Then you got places like, let's say, Arlington, Virginia, that I'm saying have houses the price kind of high and taxes kind of low. So it really just depends because the taxes play a huge role on what their mortgage payment is going to be depending on where they want to live. I had a client earlier this year. She bought a house way down in St. Mary's County because the taxes, she moved from Prince George's County to St. Mary's County, and the taxes were so low that it was unbelievable. I looked at on the MLS when we were making an offer. I said, hold up. I called the agent. I said, is this correct? I looked in the tax records. I think the tax was like $211 or something for the year. That's what I think it was. But in Prince George's County, that same house, that taxes would have been over $8,000. But you have to take that $8,000 and divide it by 12 and add that onto your monthly payment. So like when you were just mentioning about the payments, that's not including the taxes. So if you do what? We do 8,000. Just use 8,000 divided by 12. That's an additional 600 and something dollars added on top of that. Compared to $211 divided by 12, that's only $17.
where's that? And I
Must,
want to pay that little in taxes. That's great.
right. That's the point I'm making. So the taxes play a huge role what a person's monthly mortgage payment is going to be, but some people are just focused on price amount, interest rate. It's much more than that. It's much more than that. So, like I always say, if they can afford their payments, then they're in a good position because later on they can refinance, and then interest rate may go down. But here's the thing: what happens if interest rate keep going up? What if we get to 10%? Then what? You got your house, and then once you got your house, if your house is gaining equity, then you'll have some equity because if house prices keep going up, you gain equity. Now you're not at the 10% because if you do all the numbers for over the years and stuff, interest rate, like I said, this year have been historically low. But like you said, go back a couple of years, they were, around 4%. But going back to before, what's that, 2015, before, I think like right after the housing market, it was still kind of up a little bit. I mean, but guess what? People still buying houses. You know why? Because people still have to move. People go through divorces. People have kids. They need more space. People move from other places, other states. They have to relocate because of their jobs. So people are
And
still.
nobody who buys a house regrets it. Like all of those, like if you even when interest rates were high in those times, like 2015, I bought a house in 2015, and I don't regret it. That house has appreciated by almost 50%. So, I mean, nobody regrets it. You can even buy on the worst time. Like I told you, I bought my first house in 2005, right?
Right.
Probably one of the worst years I buy it because of the market crash. And that house right now is worth almost $1 million. It's
right.
And I bought it for I think 425.
Right. So yeah, and that house, let's say if you bought another house, I don't know if you did, but let's say you bought another house, and then with the other house, you basically take some money out that house to use to buy your next house. You still got that house, you can rent it out. It's so much that can be done. That's why
I think that's why homeowners right now statistics show that homeowners have 40 times more wealth than their peer group that are renters. And homeownership is the key to long-term wealth.
It definitely is. So yeah, I definitely believe that. So yeah, that's good. That's good. So what else is going on in the mortgage world, Johns?
I mean, I think that's it. I think everybody is very concerned about interest rates, and rightly so, right? But I think we're you've hit it pretty right on when you said that they're going up to 8%. I think when we look at actually, so this is everybody always listens to like the Fed and saying, oh, the Fed is raising interest rates by 75 basis points, 0.75%, and everybody thinks that's the day that all mortgage rates are going to go up. They're not actually correlated like that. Mortgage rates are they follow what's expected. So the Fed might raise interest rates, but mortgage rates go down because they expected to raise them more, right? So what's interesting about that is that a lot of the Fed's projected interest rate hikes have already been baked in, and what I think is that we're probably within 0.5% to 0.75%, just like you're saying, right around 8% of what's called the terminal rate in the industry as far as what the Fed's going to raise the interest rates to before the next stage in an economic cycle, which we don't like to say this word, but like truly a recession where the higher interest rates are starting to suppress economic growth. And instead of being primarily worried about inflation, now the Fed has to also juggle inflation with economic growth. Otherwise, we would just have a really, really poor economy with inflation and poor economic growth. So I think we're probably within 0.75%, 0.5% to 0.75% of the terminal rate. So translating is 8% interest rates. Right, look exactly what you're saying. I don't know if you follow how much economic news you follow, but you seem to be pretty right on it.
Yeah, I tend to go by history, and I tend to go by my own personal experience. I rarely listen to the news, to be honest with you. When I do listen to them, I do listen to what they say. Like earlier this week, I do recall them saying something about interest rate going up. It's not a good time to buy. I don't want to hear that stuff because you don't know what people can afford. This is how I look at people. People can afford a house. A house is a great investment, but people tend to spend their money on other things that are not a great investment. They'll sometimes splurge on clothing. They take more than 2 vacations a year because they want to hang with their friends all the time. They want to go out.
We're just trying to look like Damon the agent. That's why we're spending money on clothing, man. I look at how you dress, and I'm like, man, I want to look like that guy.
Look, I didn't always dress like this, though. You see what I'm saying? So basically, it took a process and time. But the only thing I'm saying is sometimes, even with myself, I try not to do excessive spending. I try to, invest wisely so I can have money down the line to buy this or buy whatever. But at the same time, with people, I think sometimes with people it depends on how much things are a priority. Sometimes people want things handed to them. They want things given to them. Like, for example, I've had people approach me saying they want to buy a foreclosed house. And I'm like, okay, how are you financing? And then the first thing they say, don't they got programs for foreclosed property? And I'm like, they have programs, but they're not necessary for foreclosed property unless you're using the FHA 203K plan loan, which is a renovation loan and everything. But it all is going to depend upon you. And then they'll say, oh, well, I heard about using other people's money. So, but at the same time, they looking for all these ways to get something for nothing with no investment into it. But then they've invested a lot in themselves as far as the clothing, the trips, to everything else. But you want something like a house that's going to bring you wealth or potential wealth, but you don't want to. It's all about people's priorities and stuff. So, like I said, I come on here trying to educate people, trying to give them the best information. I'm not a loan officer. That's why I may give my spill, but then I always have to follow it up with a person like you who is the loan officer, so you can give your facts and your truth on everything. So that's just how things are. So, John, I mean, if you don't have anything else to say, I appreciate your time, effort, wisdom, know-how, and knowledge for coming on here. So I put your information right there. John Lynn is a senior loan officer with Intercoastal, correct?
Intercoastal, correct.
Correct. Yeah. So yeah, he's a very good loan officer. His office is in Fairfax, Virginia. We've done a couple of deals together, and also, his information is there if you want to check him out. Have any questions for him? Let him know. We will talk again soon, John. I appreciate your time and effort. Thank you for coming on, and
Thanks for having me,
it's
Damon.
always good.
It was awesome.
I appreciate you.
All
I'll
right,
talk to you soon. Okay.
All right.
Okay. All right, y'all. That was John Lynn, the senior loan officer with Intercoastal. He gave a lot of good information. He was just backing up basically what I said in reference to the interest rates and also the monthly mortgage payment. So that was John. So my next topic of discussion is manipulating parents. I just wanted to touch on this subject because I've seen so much bitterness amongst grown people towards some of their parents, and sometimes, unfortunately, parents, even though they have kids, they sometimes don't get along. They separate. They get involved in other relationships, but the kid are always the one affected by what goes on between the mother and the father. I'm gonna share my personal experience. I have 4 grown kids. I have 5 total. I have a 2-year-old, but then I have a 21-year-old son, 23-year-old daughter, 24-year-old daughter. That's the one that I raised since she was 4, and she's very overprotective of me. And I have a soon to be 28-year-old daughter. I remember, like, with my own personal experience, how I was lied on, and with my 4 grown kids, they're about 3 different women. I just want to put that out there. And I remember I was lied on. I remember all I wanted to do was spend time with my kids. And the reason why I was so adamant about spending time with my kids was because I knew as I grew up, my father was around, but he wasn't around. He was well known, well liked. Everybody knew him, but he didn't invest time. And I say time because time is the most valuable thing that a parent, especially a father, can give their kids. I mean, money is needed as well. Time is first, money is second. But he didn't invest time in us. And I knew when I had kids, I wanted to invest time with my kids. So I remember the challenges that I had, and I remember I was lied on by one. I remember my daughter was kept from me by the other. I remember I was lied on. I had even had some false charges made up against me. And I kept wondering to myself, why am I going through this? And I'm not even going to lie. I got angry to the point where I wanted to do some harm. But I thought about doing harm to them. It's only going to bring karma to me. And on top of that, I didn't want anything to happen to my kids because you never know when harm is going to be done. So I was thinking about a lot of things. I remember all the lies that were told on me. And all I did was stay to my plan, was to always make an effort to be in my kids' life, regardless of what went on. It was hard. I'm not gonna say it wasn't hard. I struggled financially. I didn't have any support, and everything. So I say this to say that as my kids got older, they started to see both parents for who they were. They started to see who I was. And even when I had my kids with me, I never badmouthed their mother. I never badmouthed them, even though they were lying on me. So let's fast forward to today. My 4 grown kids are grown. I have a better relationship with them. I mean, put it like this: they have a better relationship with me than they do their mother. They're closer with me than their actual mother. Um, and even with one of my daughters, she was saying some things about her mother, and I said to her, "That's still your mother. You have to respect your mother, despite what she says or who she are." I said, in the Bible, it says, "Honor thy mother and father." It says you don't. It never said you had to like your parents. Because even with my parents and stuff, there were things my father did to me that I felt was shiesty and wrong. But once I learned how to forgive him, I still honored him to the day he died. Like even with my mother now, my mother never raised me, but I honor her. A lot of people say, "Oh, you always look out for your mother," because they see my stories and everything. But I honor my mother because that's my mother. And I say that to say that I hear a lot of stories of men being lied on. I hear even some mothers have been lied on by the fathers, and it turns out to be where you have one parent always trying to manipulate their kids. They try to lie on their kids. Because like my daughter, the one that I told you, that I told her she got to respect her mother. Her mother used to lie on me all the time. Used to say bad things about me. I never said anything bad about her. Now it's turned around. She doesn't have a good relationship with her mother now. And now I'm the one telling her that's your mother, respect her. But it's kind of funny how things have turned around, but I still never badmouth, even though I know some of the stuff that my daughter said is true, still never badmouth them. Because here's the thing: kids will eventually see who a person are. You got some men who are mad because they're no longer with the mother and the mother's moved on, got a new boyfriend. So they take it out on the kids and say, "Oh, had that guy be the kid's father, or your mother didn't spend all the money on I mean the money. I sent your mother the money and stuff." Some of them are lying. And then you have some mothers who say, "Oh, your father didn't send no money," when they got the money, but they used the money for whatever they wanted to use and they didn't prioritize it. Because I had to go through situations like that as well, where I was sending money, but the money wasn't being spent on my kids. It was being spent on their own personal use. But even though that was happening, I would still go out my way and still buy for my kids, despite the fact that I had already sent money. It's like I was paying twice for real. So what I'm saying to you as parents and as kids, you have to forgive your manipulating parents, the ones that lied to you about your parent, whether it was your mother or your father. You have to forgive them, and you're not forgiving them for them. You're forgiving them for you. And as far as parents and everything, you have to be careful of the words and the things that you say, because there are many people out here lying every day. There are some people who know that they're saying one person is the father when they're really not the father. You got some fathers who making up excuses about having to work all the time and you ain't spending no time with your kids and stuff. See, kids see who you are, who you really are. And if you just a no good parent or no good person, then that's just who you are. It's no change in that. But if you're a good person with a good heart, and you're trying, continue to try despite what you go through, because you're not alone. Because there are other people who've been through the things, and you will be rewarded in the end, because your kids will eventually see who you are. Kids see things, they figure out things. And don't get me wrong, sometimes they don't, unfortunately, because I know someone who's been lied on, and it's kind of struggle. And yes, it's a struggle. It's a struggle. But why parents manipulate their kids? Because of their insecurities. Because the fact is, though, if you weren't insecure, you'll just let them know the truth. Because whatever the truth is, the truth is. But really, they do that because they want the kids to side to them, to be closer to them. Ain't got nothing to do with the other parent. And then as the kid gets older, if they have a if they start to think about a lot of things, and if they sometimes go hold a conversation with the other person, they figure out a lot of things. A lot of times they figure out things in a conversation. If the person don't want to talk to them, don't want to be bothered, making up excuses, then yeah, they'll know that what their parents said was true. But then they also know that if it's not, then what their parents said was a lie. So I say that to say that manipulating parents in the world, your karma is coming to you, regardless of what you've done, what you said, your karma is coming to you. Sometimes people get karma in the form of bad health, bad luck, never getting a break, always something breaking down, being broke, not having enough money, people not liking you, you getting hurt, you're always sick. Sometimes that's your karma. The karma comes from you ain't putting your kids first, because a man and a woman who do not put their kids first don't have good luck. It's just a fact. You're not going to have good luck if you dishonor your parents and if you don't take care of your kids. And taking care of your kids meaning not manipulating them. It meaning if you're not doing what's best for your kids. A lot of times doing what's best for our kids is not what's best for us, and it hurts us. It really does. Takes us out of our character. But guess what? Doing what's best for your kids is for your kids, because everybody wants their kids to have a better life than them. Or at least they should want their kids to have a better life than them. But I just say that manipulating parents, karma is coming for you. And to the kids who have been manipulated by their parents, forgive your parents and all the lies that they told you. I pray that you get the answers to what you need to get the answers to. But I just wanted to touch on that subject about manipulating parents because it's too often and too rapid. So I pray that you all do what's best for the kids, and I pray that the kids can see through the lies and the BS and, work things out. So that is another segment of Real Estate, Real Life, Real Talk, and Real Live with Damon, the agent. I thank you all for coming on my show. I'm going to recap today's episode. First of all, I was talking about home prices versus mortgage prices. Mortgage payments. I'm sorry. Home prices versus mortgage payments. Which one is more important to you? Because if you're waiting for interest rate to go down, like I said, please don't hold your breath, because it may be a while for that. But as you're waiting on that, the home prices are going to continue to rise, which makes you going to end up getting less house in the future, maybe at the same price that, what you're doing now. But if you get the house now, you'll build equity, and you can always refinance and lower your payments if and when the interest rate go down. That is something to really take into consideration, because you got to look at the numbers. Always look at the numbers. There's many variable factors. Always look at the numbers. And I just had John Lynn, a senior loan officer who's with Intercoastal Mortgage. He was on here. His information is right there. He was basically reiterating what I said. He was just also going over some numbers. If you would like to go over some numbers or have him to pre-approve you, you all can basically see his information right here. Or you can go to my website, damontheagent.com. Click on the middle where it says mortgage free. Hold on. Let me go to my own website. I go to my website, stroll down past the nice looking homes, go to mortgage calculator and mortgage rates. You click on that, you see what down there below, it will say get pre-approved. You click on that, that should take you right to John Lynn's information. He is there. If you need to get approved, it has all his information right there. If you have any questions, he's always easily accessible. Excuse me, John does not mind talking or sharing information with you all in reference to mortgages, refinance, payments, interest rate, anything that pertains to numbers, because that is the most important thing, the finances and the numbers when buying a house. If you're looking to buy $1 million home, guess what? I can get that for you too, because the interest rate are extremely low right now for $1 million properties. So if you want one, come on. If you can afford the payment, let's go. I got some beautiful homes that I can show you too. And then last but not least is manipulating parents. I wanted to just touch on that because so many people right now are mad at their father or mad at their mother, and they're grown. They won't even speak to them. But like I said, you got to let that go and understand that it's not your fault, and understand that people are who they are. But once you know the truth shall set you free. And understand people are who they are. And this includes your parents. Your parents are who they are. They can't change it. But guess what? You can change anything in your world, in your life, if you want to badly enough. And just understand, to all those manipulating parents who have lied on the other parents, who have deceived your children, your karma is due, and it will come one way or another. And if you're having bad luck and things not always working out for you, maybe it's because of all the manipulation that you have done. You think you won, you think you really got over, but really you haven't and you didn't. So I just wanted to touch on those. I ask for you all to always please follow me and like me on all my social media platforms. If you don't know where they are, go to my website, damontheagent.com. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in real estate, please, I am licensed in DC, Maryland, Virginia, always willing and happy to help. I thank you all for coming. I appreciate you. You all have a great day and weekend.